Are you ready to face the truth? Welcome to Activist. I'm Gareth.
And I'm Jackie. Today we have the enormous pleasure of talking with Anita Krajnc. Anita is the founder of Toronto Pig Safe and the Animal Save movement. With over 1,000 chapters or more around the globe and growing all the time, it is easily one of the most influential organisations within the vegan movement.
In today's episode, we talk about vigils and being an effective organisation. To create the amount of change that the Save movement has is fantastic, and so we learn in depth from Anita about this and some of the methods that they take. So I hope you enjoy this episode as much as we did. If you enjoy this content, then smash that like button, drop a comment below and share, or subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. Thank you so much for joining us today, Anita. We always like to start these discussions by taking the time to look back at how our activists started on their journey to embracing a vegan lifestyle. For someone who's gone on to create a powerful movement through organising vigils for the animals, what got you started in veganism? And did you have prior activism experience before starting what would become Toronto Pig Save and the Save movement?
That's a great question, Gareth. I started as a peace activist and an environmentalist. And I also started as a vegetarian in the 90s after I saw a film called The Animals Film, which is narrated by Julie Christie. And it was the first graphic film of its kind coming out of the United Kingdom in the early 80s. And after I watched that film, I had nightmares for 3 days. I was an undergraduate university student. And then I became the president of the University of Toronto Students for the Ethical Treatment of Animals in the 90s. And it took me till 2004 before I became vegan. And it was a student group at Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario, Canada, that was influenced by Gary Francione. And they called me a hypocrite. They were really aggressive, and it made me examine my own values and educate myself on the link between the calf, or you're not supposed to say veal. Like, if I read this book by Joan Dunyer, and she says to avoid the word veal. So I sort of recognized the link between the exploited calf industry and the dairy. You're not supposed to use dairy either. I'm sorry, I'm trying to think of it because I've just been studying her thesaurus, and she says avoid using language that is speciesist. But she said the stolen milk industry, and that's when I became vegan. And the Toronto Pig Safe started 6 years later after I adopted a dog, Mr. Bean, and it was the first time I saw the pigs in the transport trucks going to a downtown slaughterhouse in Toronto, and that's when Toronto Pig Safe started in 2010.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look more into that language that you were talking about, because it sounds really interesting. And, at the time of recording, we're just going into the question, whereas, we need to be starting to use pronouns for animals, which is so true. They are, he's and she's and hims and hers. And I'd really like to look into more of that. We interviewed, our very first interview for the activist series was with Bobby Sudd from LA Animal Save, who explained to us about, bearing witness. And that really lit a fire within us, didn't it? We found that really impactful. And to bear witness is an expression carried across many facets of activism and is most commonly associated with the Save movement. Facing the uncomfortable truth and witnessing the victims is often the reasons that, given to us for the passion that drives our community. I think, almost all members of the human race can testify to the powerful connection that one can feel when having an encounter with a non-human animal, whether it's a companion animal or a wild animal. Would you mind sharing with our audience your first encounter with those pigs in the trucks and how powerful that connection was formed for you? And how
Yes.
that powerful connection was formed for you?
Yes, I live in downtown Toronto, and I knew about the slaughterhouse since I moved in this area. So I knew about it for 4 years, but I never bothered to go to the slaughterhouse to look at the pigs going to slaughter. I thought, somebody should do something. Somebody should leaflet or something. And then I adopted Mr. Bean, and we walk on Lakeshore, and there would be trucks that would be moving slowly in rush hour traffic in the morning. and I saw the pigs looking out of the trucks, and I couldn't believe it. Like, they were so beautiful, but they were scared and sad, and sort of yearning for someone to pay attention and to help them. And but it took a little while before I actually went right up to the trucks. I was working for Rabble TV. It's a independent news program, and I wanted to get footage going right up to the trucks. And when I did that, the first time I did that, it looked like it was a dungeon, and it was like this innocent pig that was looking at me and asking me to help him. And it was just like, at that moment, I promised that pig a minimum of 3 vigils a week. And we've kept that promise as a Toronto Pig Save. And it's, when I saw the pig there, I just thought, like, everyone needs to see this. If everyone saw this, they wouldn't participate in this evil. And so right at the beginning, our goal was to advocate for veganism and for activism, and the idea that everyone has a moral duty to bear witness, and that we need to have vigils at every slaughterhouse in the world. So that was an idea that was we all felt early on when we started holding vigils at Toronto Pig Save.
That's awesome. It's I'm so glad for the pigs and for everyone that has gone on to learn and be inspired by that first encounter. I mean, what you're doing has really raised awareness of the plight of pigs, and getting that footage out there, and Bobby's images in particular as well. They are so insightful, so incredibly heartbreaking, and you can see they are they're like us. They're just amazing creatures. With
the sentience really shines through. And when we spoke to Bobby as well, he really made that point about taking those couple of minutes just to be there with them, and that's the most kindness they're going to receive in that whole lifetime. And that was something that really just struck at me hugely, because for a pig, their lives are cut so short, so that 2 minutes is a huge amount of time for them, even. So it's fantastic what you're doing. And participating in the vigil is often regarded as a great stepping stone, a staging ground for activists, somewhere which they can go on and then get more active in the movement. But what is it that makes vigils such a good staging place for activists? Like, for our viewers who may not have heard of vigils yet, how involved do participants need to be in these events?
Yeah, I think it's a life transforming experience, because you need to ask yourself, what's the difference between watching a video and bearing witness firsthand? And there's so many differences, and it took me a long while to even understand bearing witness, because it's such an intense experience. One of the things that's exceptional about it is that there's no filter. Like, you're just seeing the truth, and the being before you is someone who's equal to you, and they're with the golden rule, you empathize so strongly, and you ask yourself, what would you want if you were in that truck? And so it's, when you go to these animal vigils, it's like you're going to a different planet. It's like hell. But if we don't go there, and if we don't share their truth, we're not going to stop it. And I think, so we have this incredible moral responsibility. And when you go to these vigils, like, you feel accountable. Like, you really feel like you want to help the beings before you, but you can't. And I know a lot of people sort of criticize the animal safety movements, are saying, like, you're just watching and you're not doing anything. And it's a partial form of bearing witness. Only occasionally do we actually rescue animals. We've rescued hundreds, possibly thousands of animals at vigils worldwide. But we're witnessing millions of animals going to slaughter through all our vigils, millions and millions and millions. And the thing is, with a partial form of bearing witness, it's better than not being there. It's better than looking away, out of sight, out of mind. By going there, it makes fighting for animal rights a bigger priority to you. So, like, when I was already a vegan and an activist before I started bearing witness. But when the first time I bore witness to the pigs in the truck, it made fighting for animal rights the number one priority in my life. It completely changed my life. And this has happened to many people. Like a lot of people go to the vigils at LA Animal Safe and then open a vegan restaurant, or, somebody might be a stockbroker and then becomes, our director of communications. Like, it's just like, it's changed people's lives in a big way. Because in any movement, we know that bearing witness is powerful. Like Sea Shepherd does that. They're bearing witness to the whales. Greenpeace does that. The civil rights movement did that. Gandhi did that. Like, bearing witness has always been a central strategy in social change movements.
Fantastic. It's great to have that insight. And I think one thing that's prudent as well with this is the fact that by bringing light to that struggle there, you might not necessarily be saving the pigs on that truck, but if it can raise the awareness in somebody who is consuming those pigs, it may be saving the ones in the next truck. So, there's not always that direct correlation, but it's it's fantastic what you guys do.
It's bringing it out of hiding, and which is, that's what it is. You brought it out of hiding and making people think, God, is this actually happening around me? And all too often we hear counter arguments to injustices of people saying, oh, that doesn't happen here, that only happens overseas. I mean, when I went vegan, that was actually because I learned what was happening to mother pigs in farrowing crates over here in New Zealand, and I did not think that happened here. So when I found out it was happening in our own so-called developed, compassionate country, I was like, I'm not being a part of that anymore, and I was really shocked when we were in Wellington last year to learn that there was a slaughterhouse in the middle of the city's industrial area, where the members of Wellington Animal Save are carrying out vigils. So, and you yourself with Toronto Pig Save, created huge waves with your choice of location for vigils. Highlighting the trucks and the slaughterhouses within local communities has really helped to lift the veil for many, and to counter those perceptions of, it doesn't happen here. And the abuse of slaughter of animals, like we said, doesn't only happen in distant lands. It doesn't only happen in, Asia and all those places that get the finger pointed at them. It's right on our back doorstep. Will we be right in saying that shining the spotlight on activities in our own backyards appears to be a crucial tool in the Save movement's effectiveness by persuading spectators to reevaluate their actions, sort of bringing the issue closer to home, I guess? Do you find that opens the conversations further?
Absolutely. I think people are shocked, like you said, like that there are slaughterhouses in their communities or near their communities. So that's one of the things we've done is politicize slaughterhouses and also slaughterhouse trucks. I remember in the 90s when I was a vegetarian, I don't recall like seeing slaughter trucks when I was on the highway, but now I see them all the time. I go, there's a truck, there's a truck. And I think just by holding these vigils, we've politicized these trucks. We've encouraged people to look, to be aware, to notice, to put it on the agenda, to have them think about it. And so absolutely, shining light is part of the battle. There's a famous quote by Romain Rolland. He was a vegetarian in the early 1900s. And he said, just by shining the light on evil, that's sort of like half the job done, because it sort of changes the behavior of the transgressor. Absolutely, it's I think it's very important that people hold vigils in their own communities, and we all have a moral responsibility to do that. Jim Coetzee, he's a Nobel laureate and vegan in South Africa. He said there are, slaughterhouses, animal testing facilities, all these places in our communities, and people don't know about them, or they're hidden. And so it's so important for us to shine a light on the truth, because that is a first step in stopping these places. But there are other steps after that. Knowing the truth is not enough to change the world. You have to organize, and so I think it's very important for all of us to be community organizers. And so we have two main strategies. One is the strategy of bearing witness. Another one is to use love-based community organizing, and using that approach is very inclusive. We have babies, children, grandmothers, grandfathers, coming to our vigils, people of all colors, people of all ages and sexes and things like that. So I think that's precisely the approach we need, because we need our entire community to organize. And we don't see the slaughterhouse owners, managers, workers as enemies, but as opponents that we need to convert. Just like we need to convert all the omnivores, excuse me, and vegetarians. So it's a very Gandhian approach, because he did not refer to the other side as enemies, but as opponents. And our mission is to convert. And I'm just reading this book right now on Tolstoy, Gandhi, and Mandela. And that all three had in common this mission of converting the other side, and just bringing everyone together in a social justice campaign.
Wow. We absolutely love that approach, and it's something even just looking on the vegan perspective, we always like to say here at Vegan FTA that collaboration is the future of our movement, and that also goes to outside of the vegan movement, and as you say, working with the opposition as opposed to working against them. So yeah, we love the love-based approach that you guys take, and I look forward to talking about that more in this interview.
It made me think actually of some friends that I know that members of Animal Save, particularly in Wellington over here, and they do take their sons and daughters with them to vigils, and it makes me think, can you imagine what a different place the world would be if more young people, if more children saw this so early on in their lives? Like, I think it's wonderful, and those children that I know are just the most wonderful, compassionate souls already. They've barely even reached double figures.
In a previous interview, you spoke about the importance of location when it comes to the vigils. And throughout the series, we've spoken with multiple activists who conduct their events and vigils on different stages, a variety of locations. Although the Save movement is known for the slaughterhouse vigils, have there been any other locations that you have found to be effective in spreading this message for the animals?
Absolutely. That's a good question. So we also have like fish save groups that hold vigils at ports or at supermarkets. In terms of other locations, we also have, besides holding vigils, we also do save squares, so vegan outreach in downtown centers, just to show people the footage of slaughterhouses, but also of sanctuaries and climate chaos, and the link to animal agriculture. We also have like 3 other branches, besides Animal Save. We have Climate Save Movement, Youth Climate Save, and Health Save. And so the tactics there include joining marches and school talks and beach cleanups, film screenings. Currently, our climate campaigner is working to have a vegan component to add a vegan component to the climate clock. So the climate clock looks at how much time we have left in terms of fossil fuel, the role of fossil fuels in destroying the climate, and then it looks at some lifelines, like positive indicators, like more renewable energy. And so our campaigner Stephanie has been working to have a veganize that clock. And so that so there are so many areas that you can work on, because we look at all the different aspects of going vegan. So the animals are central, but so is the climate and public health. And so it gives you lots of opportunities to try a variety of strategies and tactics. Another really interesting initiative is we have letters to schools and hospitals asking them to veganize their menus, and it's on our website. On animalsave.org, we have a campaigns drop-down menu, and we're asking that all these institutions create plant-based zones where they completely veganize their menu for all the reasons that we talked about.
Brilliant.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, you guys are such a well-run organization. Everything that you do is just hugely on point. Your content at the moment, we we check out who's doing what. And I think on Facebook yesterday, animal safe content was like number 34.
Yeah, and
on Facebook.
Top
Really?
top ranking sort of content and stuff like that. It was a video of the chicken with the wings out over her chicks and stuff like that. And yeah, its viewership is
30 million something. Yeah. No, I was surprised. Yeah, because we had like, you know how you get your weekly analytics? The reach was like over 50 million. So yeah, it's gone up. The last week it went up 800%. But yeah, often we have like just millions and millions and millions in terms of reach. But it was exceptional this last week. So maybe that's why it made. Are you saying a general Facebook top list?
That was the impression I got. Yeah, out of all of Facebook, I mean, how many pages are there in Facebook, and you guys are like in the 30s, which is incredible. Yeah,
it's great to see animal rights places getting right up there.
Yeah, people are watching this.
There's a firefighter, Chris, who's in Manchester, and he's our viral video specialist, and he does a tremendous job, and just our entire team. So one of the reasons that we do so well on social media is we're a global organization, and we have representatives from different regions helping us with content. So in Oceania, we have Amanda in Brisbane, who does incredible content. And then in Latin America, we have Sabrina and Azul and Val. And then in North America, we got Varun, and in Europe, we have Leah. So we have people around the world that are getting us really good content. Plus, we have a viral media specialist. So we've over time we've improved our structure. And what I found from studying labor movements is that one of the ingredients to success is having a representative organizing committee and having an expanding team. And so our approach from the beginning was expanding team leadership. So it's not about like one person or a few people, it's about expanding teams and the idea that everyone is an organizer and everyone's a leader, and a good leader encourages leadership in others. And because that's what we need, right? So we define ourselves as a global network of activists, and we over the years we've become increasingly representative at the global level, but also at the local level. And looking at labor studies, that is one of the ingredients for a successful comprehensive campaign. So we're learning from other movements, like democracy works, like it's the best system we have, and having a representative organization is one of the ways in which which is very successful in terms of being impactful and effective. It's the right thing to do, but it's also very effective.
That's fantastic information, especially for us right now, because the vegan FTA is in the process of doing just that right now. So it's great for us. I'm sure for some of our activists out there too, who are trying to establish their networks as well and grow stronger. And yeah, this whole thing again of collaborating and having many different facets to the organization is just help you grow so much.
It's got me thinking about the people over here that are with the Animal Safe. We've got our amazing Sandra Kyle over here. We've got the young guys Caitlin and Vincent and the team at Taranaki Animal Safe. We've got Maya in the Wellington Animal Safe. I mean, they're all wonderful leaders, just amazing activists, and their commitment. I mean, going back to your first encounter with the truck, when you made that commitment to hold 3 vigils a week, and you stuck to that. I mean, that's another facet of being effective in activism, is the frequency, and that you guys are so committed, every week, that you hold your events. And there's a lot of shock or kind of tactics that are used in animal advocacy to create a big impact over a short time frame. But you guys, you've maintained a presence around this cause. And do you find by applying the more consistent pressure of always being there every week, how have you seen this create change over time?
That's a great question, and it absolutely works. So when we first started, we kept the promise to the pig of 3 vigils a week, and it's some people said, well, you can't do that, it's not sustainable, it's not good for your mental, so on and so forth. But what makes it sustainable is that the movement's growing, and that all the pain of seeing so much injustice and so much hurt is counterbalanced by a growing community, building a love-based community, supporting each other, having an impact, being more effective. And the question is, what do the animals want? The animals want us to be there. They want us to see them. They want for us to help them individually or their brothers and sisters in the next truck. And so, we're doing what the animals want, and being there as much as we can is so important. And yes, we started with 3 vigils a week, but then we innovated. We said, okay, let's do an all-day vigil. Let's do a 30-hour vigil. And then in England, somebody said, let's do a 5-day vigil. And then somebody in Barcelona said, oh, let's do a 5-day vigil and 5-day fast. And there was a 3-day vigil in Poland. And so all these ideas, people come up with ideas all over the world, and they're good ideas that are then spread around the world. And it's so important to be consistent, because a lot of people say, I can't go to a vigil. I can't do it. I'm going to break down. 6 months later, they come to a vigil. Just by being there regularly, giving people opportunities to join, it's so important. And being consistent and never canceling those vigils, unless it's like unsafe. But, when it rains or snows, we're there. When it's extreme weather, we're there to document, the animals suffering in extreme heat or in extreme cold weather conditions. We're there. And so, I just think it's really important to do. And again, it's what the animals are calling for. And that's what guides us. We're a very animal-centric movement. It's an animal standpoint, basically. And at the same time, we're an intersectional movement, and we also support, human equality, human-animal equality, and animal equality. And I love that about our movement, is how we're open to social justice issues and others. But our mission is basically to end animal agriculture for the sake of the animals, for the sake of the climate and people's health, and to reforest the earth. So we have this clear mission, but at the same time, we're an organization that is aware of the social struggles that are happening around us, and the importance of having solidarity for other social movements.
Wow. A large factor of the Save movement is that standing together to create change. And while conducting the vigils and dealing with the after effects, the emotional burden of that, having that community is so important. We've spoken with activists previously in this series, like Tash Peterson in Australia, who take on solo vigils and events. And we've heard their reasons for going it alone. In contrast, why is it a community approach is so important to your vigils?
That's a really good question. It's when we started Toronto Pig Save, there was someone else who was doing individual vigils, and she wanted to do it alone. And I guess the reason that we do community vigils is that we just feel that everyone has a moral duty to be there, and it's life changing. And we literally think that every human on the earth should be bearing witness, and that's our goal. And it's it's a choice in life. When you see an animal suffering, you can look the other way and flee from the suffering one, or you can come as close as you can and try to help, to paraphrase Leo Tolstoy. And so we want to change the cultural norm so that everyone sees it as their moral duty to run to someone suffering and to help them. And this is for animal suffering. This is in terms of human genocides. It's in terms of any social injustice. When you look at the great authors, and Charles Dickens, he wrote about bearing witness in a lot of his books. He has this governess named Mrs. General, in I think it was Little Dorrit. And she says, she says to Little Dorrit, don't look at poor people. It's not becoming, it's it's not pleasant, and it's not, don't do it. And she did. And even though this question, or you look at, A Christmas Carol. And again, it's about, it's always about what you do in life, whether you look the other way or you help. And we just want to change the cultural norm so that people don't say anymore that, oh, I don't want to see slaughterhouse footage. That's terrible. It's depressing. I don't want to see that. That's not an answer. Even if it hurts you, even if it causes you trauma, we need to share the incredible trauma that animals are suffering in order to change their plight. So they suffer trauma from the day they're born to the day they die. All their life, they're suffering trauma. They bear witness all their life. So we're just bearing witness a tiny bit. And it's so devastating because it's so awful what's happening. But we need to do this. If all of us do this, if a community does it instead of one person, then there's more power in it, and the situation will change faster. So that's the reason you don't have one person bearing witness. You really need to encourage the entire community to bear witness, because that's what's going to change the world faster.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I've never thought about it that way. And it's just so, it's so true. And going back to the previous question as well about the frequency of the vigils, I love that you do that, because this doesn't go away. If it's always there, it's always happening, and you getting out there and drawing attention to it, it just reaches more and more people all the time. So I know one thing that one subject I guess we need to touch on really is activist safety, and that I know that is something that people are concerned about when they go to vigils. Our amazing Sandra Kyle, she documents her vigils every week. We share them a lot on Vegan FTA because they're just amazing, heartrending reading. And she's amazing going out there, putting herself out there, several times a week. And it does worry me. And sometimes we say to Sandra, we worry for you going out there by yourself, and activist safety is something that's really important to us here at Vegan FTA. And sadly, tragic events like the death of Regan Russell can still happen despite us all taking routine safety precautions, everything that we do necessary, due to the callous acts of staff members or the public during these events. When we spoke to Bobby, he said to us, when he comes up against aggression, he'll just, if he gets abuse from truck drivers or whatever, he'll just give them a peace sign and just, carry on his way. As a love-based movement, which I just love that concept, how do you react to signs of aggression or violence from operators or the public?
So we think that there's a number of things you can do. And one of the first things you should do is reach out to the slaughterhouse management, ask for a meeting, and ask for a safety agreement. Talk to the police and ask for a safety agreement. Sometimes it works, like right off the bat. And I'll give you an example of what happened to us in Toronto. We have a chicken slaughterhouse owned by Maple Leaf, and we have 2 cow slaughterhouses. And then we have Fearman's pig slaughterhouse in Burlington. And it took a couple of months for Maple Leaf to come up with a safety agreement with us. And it was the management that set the tone. As soon as they said, okay, all the trucks stop for 5 minutes, there's no issues whatsoever. Truckers turn off their engines, we bear witness for 5 minutes. At the cow slaughterhouses, it took a few years to get there. It's always the managers. It's not about the individual truck driver. It's the managers and the owners that set the tone. And at Fearman's, where Regan was tragically run over by a pig transport truck, the owner would never even talk to us. And we've been trying for years to get a safety agreement. So I think you should, if you're going to bear witness, talk to the different players and say, let's sit down, let's have a safety agreement. We're here to bear witness. We feel that everyone has a moral duty, and let's come up with an agreement. And at Maple Leaf, the chicken slaughterhouse, they understood us. They understood what we were doing, and they sympathized with it too. And in fact, this is the one company that moved away from calling itself a meat company to a protein company. And they over the last few years, they bought vegan companies, and now a big part of their business is vegan products. So, we're asking for the transformation of all these industries. And when we sit down with them, like that's the narrative. Like so I think there are things you can do on that level, at a systems level. And then there's other things you can do, like wear a high vis safety vest, just be very aware of the situation, like have safety marshals. There's just a whole number of things that you could do to try to increase the safety of the vigil participants. So on our website, Animal Safe Movement, we have a starter kit, which has a whole section on safety. You can download the 50-page handbook, and it just talks about, you know, how to organize a vigil, what to bring, how to increase safety, things like that.
Oh, what a brilliant resource. I think talking about the systematic change and talking with the actual owners and the managers there, I suppose the way to term it is sort of newer vegans, I often see they get very angry and aggressive about the whole slaughterhouse thing. I think they forget that there are actual human beings in there who you can communicate with. You know, it's not just some corporation, it's not just some shell of a monstrous being. You know, there are people on the ground that you can deal with there. And like you guys have done with the chicken, that potentially get them on the path towards doing better things and moving away from that. And it's fantastic to hear that story, because I didn't know about that previously. But Regan Russell's legacy has gone on to inspire many activists to become more active, well, many vegans to become more active in the movement. And it's fantastic that they've chosen to do that now. But one of the contributors around her death, unfortunately, was the announcement of the Animal Agricultural Gag Law in Ontario, Bill 156. And that would make it illegal for activists to bear witness and expose this industry. Despite the law not yet being passed at that time, or the bill legalizing homicide in the name of animal agriculture, the truck driver responsible still acted in the way he did, which, you know, then caused Regan's tragic death. In the wake of her death, though, was the bill still passed? For us outside of the States and Canada, we don't get a lot of that news and information out here. So is Bill 156 passed? And if so, how's the fight going to end that?
Yes, so the bill was passed one day before she was killed, but not the regulation. So it was just the act. So it was just a framework, right? That's why there was a special vigil held to protest it the day after. It was on the Friday, June 19th of last year. And then months later, they started introducing the regulations. So you're not supposed to stop the trucks. You're not supposed to put your hands in and touch the animals or give them water. But we're still doing our vigils, and it's winter here. Now it's spring, but so we still do our vigils and go up to the trucks, take pictures. So, you know, there was supposed to be a zone around the trucks. They're not implementing those provisions. So we're still, I think, because it would be it's just so outrageous. Like when you look at the bill, but they're saying that, oh, if we give water, then they might, they might enforce that. But so when the summer comes, I'm sure that many people will want to challenge that provision. Like, because if the animals are thirsty, they should get water. And it's so there's a group called Animal Justice, in a group of lawyers, and they've launched a constitutional challenge to the bill. So that's proceeding right now. And then there's going to be, in June, there's going to be a week of action for Regan Russell. And I'm sure you're going to see lots of challenges to different parts of this bill. But yes, the fight continues against this bill, but a lot of the parts of the bill are not being enforced. So like the zone, the animal protection zone around the trucks, we go right out to the trucks and we take footage, but at the moment, people are not, I'm not sure if people are touching, at the pig vigils, people generally are not touching the pigs, but at the cow vigils, they may be. I don't go to those vigils, but so it's, I feel it's like enforced in different ways. It's not really uniformly enforced, because at the cow vigils, the trucks stop and people are bearing witness. So yeah, it would be hard for you to know from Australia what's happening, because here it's like it's so unevenly enforced, and but it will be challenged in a bigger way. You'll see this summer, I'm sure.
All right.
Yeah, I look forward to that. It was just watching it from our end of the world was just crazy, and we know the UK at the moment as well is they're coming under pressure from authorities trying to ban protests, and it's like, oh my Lord, you're just trying to do something good here, something important. And, I find it very ironic that they have this animal protection zone over where you are. And yet you guys are the ones that are doing the good for the animals. Like, what is with that? But that's why we thought we should clarify, because we see that the vigils are still going ahead, which is fantastic. And we look forward to see what happens with fighting against that. So something that we've talked about many times across the series as well is the need for activists to utilize technology and film everything when it comes to activism, such as you guys do such a wonderful job. And we understand that this was also something crucial to you in 2017 when you had a truck driver attempt to have you charged for giving pigs water. Can you tell us a bit about this?
That was just a regular vigil in June 2015. And there were 5 of us at the vigil, and it was a very hot, scorching day. The temperature was in the high 20s Celsius. And there's a small traffic island, and 3 of the protesters stayed on the sidewalk with their signs. And then a couple of us, Nikki and myself, were on the traffic island. And when the truck stopped at a red light, I said, let's give them water. And it was unusual for Jeff, the truck driver, to jump out of the truck and say, don't give them water. And, and I quoted Matthew's chapter 25, when I was thirsty, you gave me water. And I said, and then he said, I'm going to call the police. And I said, call Jesus. And he said, don't give them water. Said, if they're thirsty, they're going to get water. And Nikki was filming, I was filming, Jeff was filming. It was just like we always film. And if you didn't capture it on film, there would have been no case at all. So it just shows you the absolute importance of using your phone. And I think Nikki had a camera, and she was just filming. Like, I didn't even know she was filming. Thank God she was filming. I mean, the whole case depended on her filming. So I'm very grateful to Nikki.
Yeah. When we spoke to Captain Paul Watson from Sea Shepherd, he shared the same sentiment. With a lot of what they do, he's got off a lot of charges himself because they've had the team there filming and making sure that it's documented from both sides. Because our opposition, as it were, also have the ability to film us, but as long as we're filming and sharing both sides of the story, then we can have these good results for ourselves, and more importantly, the animals. In just 10 years, what started out as a vigil for pigs in Toronto has now amassed over 1,000 animal saved chapters around the globe, bearing witness for all farmed animals. The movement now utilizes a 3-pronged approach by also creating health save, climate save, and youth save as well chapters. Yeah. What is the important about bringing in these other aspects to continue the fight for animals? I know we touched on this briefly before, but could you give us a little bit more detail on that?
So what we know from social movements is that if you can talk about more co-benefits, you're more likely to succeed. So what's so interesting about going vegan is it's a win on so many different levels, and that just benefits our movement. So why not use it? So if it benefits the climate, it benefits people's health, it benefits the youth, and by benefiting all those different aspects, it draws more people in. So ultimately, we want to bring in people to appreciate the animals, but at the same time, the survival of an animal depends on the environment. So our precious pigs, cows, chickens, all the free animals, we were talking about Joan Dunyer and, language. She has a book called Animals and Equality, Language and Equality. And she says that you shouldn't even use wildlife. She says free animals. So I'm just you have to be so careful with your language. So all these animals, they're not going to survive just because we close down slaughterhouses. We also have to have a healthy environment. And animal agriculture is a leading cause of climate chaos because it deforests the planet and is both on land and in the ocean. And it's we need to stop this. And so there are good reasons for animals to care about these other issues, including human animals. So I think we're just like pursuing the truth about like what we need to do, and it's also a very practical approach because if you focus on all these wins, all these co-benefits, you can draw more people in. And one of our fastest growing branches is Youth Climate Save Movement, and it was started by Genesis Butler when she was 15 years old. She's an African American child in LA, and she's a social media influencer. She has more than 60,000 followers on Instagram. She's really brilliant. She does some of the best talks, she has incredible connections. She just did an Instagram takeover at Nickelodeon, which has like millions of followers, just a few days ago, talking about going vegan and plant-based in order to address the climate chaos issues. So I just find that exciting that's actually the fastest growing branch of all, and that we have so much leadership from youth around the world. It's really inspiring.
It's awesome. We love Genesis, and we hope to be talking to her very soon.
Yes,
so.
she is going to be on this series. We just
she's a busy lady. She's been hard to track down, but we're hoping to talk to her very soon. So I love that all sounds, it's so exciting and positive, and I love that the Save movement is so it is so inclusive, and it is a love-based movement. And one of your campaigns which caused quite a bit of controversy, I guess you could say, within the vegan movement was the vigil for slaughterhouse workers. And, there were quite a few outspoken activists that were furious that human welfare issues were being spoken about and given recognition by the Animal Save movement. At Vegan FTA, we are FTA for the animals, but we also recognize the importance of the campaign and the positives that it represented for the animals. Would you care to give any commentary on this campaign, or a response to the activists who were upset that a humanitarian aspect might have been featured to benefit the animals?
Yeah, this is we were working with a Latin group in the United States that fights for civil rights of Latino members in the United States, and what was happening at these slaughterhouses was there were COVID outbreaks and lots of deaths of workers, and the slaughterhouses did not care in most instances about this. There's a slaughterhouse in Canada that became the epicenter of COVID, owned by Cargill in Alberta, and then the workers were from out of the country. And they didn't have a lot of sort of bargaining power. And their union asked that the slaughterhouse be shut down for a long time. And the Cargill then pressured the Alberta Labor Relations Board to just let that plant remain open. And it was a COVID epicenter. And this was happening in slaughterhouses around the US as well. So there was a group, a civil rights group representing Latino workers that said, let's have meatless Mondays, let's support that. And then they said, no, let's go beyond that. Let's have meatless May. And then they said, no, let's actually encourage, a meatless diet. And so then we formed a coalition with them, with PCRM, PETA, Jane Unchained, and we're working with them. And so then we had some vigils where we were highlighting just the flagrant disregard, not just for the animals, but also for the human animal slaughterhouse workers. And the management couldn't stand our signs. Like, they were so upset we were there, because we were saying, the slaughterhouse workers are, very vulnerable. They're dying from COVID. So they were really threatened by us. So you must ask yourself why. And, the people that really opposed our work, you have to ask, why is the slaughterhouse owners are threatened by what we're doing? Because so I think, if you read a book like Slaughterhouse by Gail Eisnitz, I don't know if you've heard of that book. It's a classic book, a wonderful book. She said that slaughterhouses are hell for animals and for workers. And if you look at Upton Sinclair's book, The Jungle, that was published in 1906. He also looked at how slaughterhouses were so brutal for the pigs being dismembered. There were public viewing galleries back then. And then he also talked about the workers, how they were exploited. And it's always the people at the bottom of the rung. So it might be the latest immigrants. It was, it's the Irish. It was the East Europeans. It was the African Americans who worked at the slaughterhouse. If you're wealthy, you're not going to dream about working at a slaughterhouse when you grow up. So we sort of understand that it's important to have a class analysis, and to show solidarity, and to part of, like, we don't want a world where anyone has to work, killing animals, 8 hours a day. And so we want to fight for the rights of people to have safe, meaningful jobs. And that means transitioning them out of the slaughterhouse industry. So when we were doing those vigils, we weren't saying, oh, like, let's just improve the working conditions for workers so they can continue to work. We were saying, no, like, this is a violent industry that also disregards their workers. Let's transition this industry out of, into something new, into something plant-based. And we were beginning to make important allies, like with civil rights groups in the United States. So that was very exciting. And I think you have to remember that. I'd for anyone who was really angry about that, I would recommend reading Gail Eisnitz's her book called Slaughterhouse. It's a classic. It's a really incredible book. But it's not to say that we oppose violence. 100% we oppose violence, but we don't want anybody having to work in a violent industry either.
I think it's such a fantastic campaign. For me, even if you can't see the depths to it, it's just another reason for people to stop eating meat. And even if it doesn't connect with vegans, it connects with then those carnists, that even those people who want to consume meat, their fellow meat eaters are being mistreated as well. So it just gives more ammunition to the cause to end that sort of practice.
Yeah, it's still shining another light on the hidden, isn't it? That people just don't think about because it's not seen.
Yeah, but over the course of this recording this activist series, we've spoken to so many wonderful advocates, many with small beginnings and going on to create global change. Activists such as yourself, we've had Matthew Glover, Geordie Casmajana, just to name a few of them. And it's just fantastic to see how you've all led the way by following your morals and your ethics and living true to those, despite it going against the grains of society. Do you have any advice for our viewers who want to be the best in creating a brighter future for all?
Yes, I think it's about teamwork and expanding teamwork. That's sort of been our philosophy from the beginning. We were inspired by the United Farm Workers. Cesar Chavez, he's a vegan. He was the first to successfully organize undocumented farm workers in California, whereas other bigger organizations had tried in the 30s, 50s, 60s and failed. He succeeded, and it was because in a David versus Goliath battle, what he did was like form an organizing structure that had expanding team leadership. And so that's what I would recommend is like, just be very welcoming, just expand the leadership, and use like love-based community organizing. And because I think, if we're going to change the world in an effective way and in a big way and as fast as we can, we need to get as many people spending their time and resources fighting for animal liberation and climate justice. And the world is so wealthy. There's so much money, so much time. People have so much time, so many resources. We just need more and more people putting their all into and trying to stop the crisis. And it's that simple. Like, we just got to get your family, your friends, your neighbors, your city, your country, the world. Like we just got to get everybody mobilized. Like that's the way I see it. I see for the reason why we love doing vigils again and again, even though many of us are suffering from secondary trauma, is because we see more new people coming. Like at the cow vigils, almost every single vigil every week, there's a new person. And to me, like that's such a big success, and it just, just getting more people involved. That I think that's the trick. That's what we got to do, is just to get and watch Seaspiracy. And like in Seaspiracy, what I loved about it is they talk to the environmentalists at the head of these plastic pollution groups, and I think that was a brilliant strategy. And I think what we all need to do is ask that the leadership, the boards, the campaigners of environmental groups go plant-based. Because one of the things that Leo Tolstoy and Gandhi said is that the first step in being a good person is looking at yourself and trying to perfect yourself. And Tolstoy, in an essay called The First Step, went to a slaughterhouse and bore witness. And he said the first step to being a good person is being an ethical vegetarian, or in today's world, it would be vegan. And so I think, like, for these organizations, environmental organizations, they need to go vegan. Because if they do, then they're more likely to tell the truth about the main cause of the ocean being destroyed is the fishing industry. So I think that's one of the lessons we have to learn, is like self-perfection is so important as a first step. And if more and more people do it, they won't resist this agenda that we all have, which is saving the planet and saving animals. So I think we often we can learn our lessons from. I'm sorry about that. Sorry about that.
No worries.
The universe is calling. We need to change.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think, like, if people went plant-based and then vegan, like, they won't resist this agenda that we have. It's such a barrier. Like, if they're omnivores and they're head of environmental groups, you tell them the truth about, the main destroyers of the ocean, and they it's hard for them to listen and to accept it. And so do you see how, like, a first step might be to say, hey, like, if you would, just trying to convert them to veganism. And so we're thinking of having one of our letters on our website geared towards just a lot of people writing to environmentalist leaders, because we have a letter for hospitals and for schools, but another one could just be appealing to leaders of, like, churches and synagogues and mosques and all these leaders. Like, if they went plant-based, then they won't resist this agenda that we have.
That's a fantastic initiative.
Yeah.
I hope it does come soon, because I'll be sure to be firing out an email campaign as well then.
Definitely. Anita, thank you so much for everything that you've done and continue to do. It just blows me away, everything that you've got going on. And as we've said, everything is just so well organized. It just can't fail to just keep growing and reaching more and more people. It's got me thinking. I was listening to a podcast that you did last year, I think, when you were saying to the interviewer that, more people should, wherever you are in the world, you should find out where your local slaughterhouse is. And here we are. There's slaughterhouses in Auckland, and it's got me thinking, okay, where is there in our area? We've got a nice network of vegans around here. What can we be doing in our area? And I'm sure that if I put some feelers out, I'd probably be shocked about how much there is in our area and how close it is. But for you, you've got so much going on and so many campaigns, some of them that you've spoken about already, but I'd love to know what is your vision? What's your hope for the future?
I think we have very little time left. I think Salah Shreya was right when he says, if you're looking at the number of mammals, large mammals on the planet, it's going down, and it will, if the curve keeps on going, the large animals would become practically extinct by 2026. So I think it's urgent, and I think that the process always matters. So always be kind. Even if we don't make it, just be kind anyways. If we're going to make it or not make it, just be kind. We're more likely to make it that way. And I think, I just think, I think people need to realize how urgent it is. I think we need to do things that are science-based. The U.S. president said on COVID, he's going to be science-based. On climate change, he's going to be science-based. Well, if that's the case, then, I think we really need to show how our agenda is of turning the whole world vegan is very science-based, if we're going to stop the climate crisis. I think there's a narrative that we got to get out. The vision for the future is that we need to end animal agriculture and reforest the earth. I mean, that is the overall sort of the future, the vision for the future. And it needs to happen as soon as possible. And, basically we have two paths, like, destroy the planet or create a paradise. It's like, there's no middle ground. It's like one or the other. And, Churchill said, when you're facing such a big crisis, like, it's not a time for half measures. And I really believe that. Like, I just think, we really need to move to a plant-based world in the next few years.
Thank you for watching this episode. If you'd like to support our speaker, then follow the links provided in the description. If you're enjoying this content, then please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leave a like on our videos or drop a comment with something that you've learned. Your love and support means the world to us, and we thank you all for watching this.